People ate laundry detergent on camera. Millions of adults started acting like NPCs for money, and someone is crying on the internet right now for strangers, for validation. These aren't trends, these are symptoms. Today, we're breaking down the weirdest, most unhinged, and honestly most revealing social trends of the last decade. Not just what they were, but why did they happen, what they say about us, and why, deep down, most of us either participated or watched someone else do it and said nothing. This is every weird social trend, explained. And once you see what's driving them, it gets uncomfortable. Let's count it down. Number 12, the ice bucket challenge. When going viral, accidentally did good. Let's start with the one that actually worked out. The ice bucket challenge hit the internet in the summer of 2014 and took over the world in about 3 weeks. The concept was simple. Dump a bucket of ice water on your head, nominate 3 people to do the same, and donate to ALS research. You had 24 hours, no excuses. Within 2 months, over 17 million people had participated. Celebrities, athletes, politicians, CEOs. Everyone was soaking wet and posting about it. It raised over $115 million for ALS research in just 8 weeks. By contrast, the ALS Association had raised about $2 million in the same period the year before. That's not viral marketing. That's a monsoon. Here's the psychological engine behind it. The challenge wasn't really about ALS. It was about social proof and public commitment. Once your friend nominated you, refusing meant publicly opting out. Everyone could see who participated and who didn't. The social pressure was built directly into the format. You weren't donating. You were performing a donation, which sounds cynical, but it raised $115 million. The cynicism kind of dissolves when the outcome is that concrete. The dark footnote: studies found that a significant percentage of participants dumped water instead of donating. They completed the social performance without the social contribution. The trend was generous and shallow at the exact same time, which is very on-brand for the internet. But this is where things start getting weirder. Number 11. Mukbang. Eating alone, together. In South Korea around 2010, a strange new format appeared online. People sitting in front of a camera, eating enormous amounts of food, while their audience watched. No commentary, no cooking tutorial, just eating, loudly, in detail, often alone. They called it mukbang, a combination of the Korean words for eating and broadcast. It spread globally. By the mid-2000s, it was everywhere. Channels with millions of subscribers built entirely around a single person consuming 4 pounds of fried chicken while making eye contact with a camera. And the audiences weren't small. Some mukbang creators were pulling millions of views per video, regular people watching other people eat, for hours. The psychological explanation is surprisingly straightforward and also kind of sad. South Korea has some of the highest rates of people living alone in the developed world. Eating is a deeply social act. When you lose the social part of eating, the family dinner, the lunch with coworkers, the date, you lose something your brain was wired to expect. Mukbang filled that gap, digitally, imperfectly, but enough. It wasn't food content. It was about companionship. Food was just the delivery mechanism. In America, it mutated into competitive eating spectacle. Giant portions, extreme challenges, maximum volume. Because of course it did. But underneath the performance version was still the original one. Someone, somewhere, eating dinner alone, putting on a video of someone else eating, so the room wouldn't feel completely silent. That's not a trend. That's loneliness finding a workaround. And this next one makes even less sense on paper. Number 10. Silent quitting. The trend that wasn't actually quitting around 2022. The phrase quiet quitting exploded across every think piece, LinkedIn post, and cable news segment simultaneously. The idea: workers, especially younger ones, were quitting their jobs without actually quitting. They were simply doing exactly what their job description said. No more, no less. No unpaid overtime. No going above and beyond. No pretending work was a personality. The media treated this like a crisis. Corporations treated this like a betrayal. And most of the actual workers involved looked up from their desks and said, "That's just having a job." Here's what made it a cultural moment. For decades, hustle culture had convinced workers that extra effort, extra hours, and emotional investment in your employer's success were not just expected, they were morally required. The idea that your job should be your purpose, that staying late showed character, that the company's success was somehow your success. Quiet quitting was just people deciding that the deal didn't work in their favor anymore, that a salary was an exchange for labor, not an invitation to dissolve your entire identity into someone else's bottom line. The trend itself was doing the bare minimum. The response from the media was doing the absolute maximum. The The real psychological story underneath it, burnout had become so normalized that simply choosing not to be burned out felt radical enough to have a name. That's not a trend. That's a generation realizing it had been sold a broken contract. And the fact that working a normal amount went viral as a concept says everything about the decade that produced it. But here's the part that actually gets under your skin. Number 9. Face filter. Obsession. When your reflection starts lying, somewhere between 2016 and now, a significant portion of the population became quietly addicted to looking at a version of themselves that doesn't exist. Snapchat launched augmented reality filters. Instagram followed, then TikTok, and then came the beauty filters. Skin smoothing, eye enlarging, jaw slimming, nose reshaping. Filters so subtle that they didn't look like filters. They just looked like a better version of you. And millions of people started preferring that version. Plastic surgeons started reporting a new phenomenon. Patients coming in with edited photos of themselves as reference images. Not photos of celebrities, photos of themselves, filtered. They called it Snapchat dysmorphia. It got its own clinical term. Let that land. The psychological damage here is specific and quiet. Normal beauty standards at least existed outside you. You could dismiss a magazine cover as unattainable because it was someone else. But when the unrealistic standard is just a filtered version of your own face, always one tap away, the comparison becomes impossible to escape. You open the camera, you look at yourself, then you slide the filter on, and suddenly, you understand exactly what it would take. And suddenly, the unfiltered version feels like the problem. That's not a beauty trend. That's an industry that built a feedback loop designed to make you feel like you're one purchase away from being acceptable. It worked spectacularly. Number 8. Clout chasing. The economy of attention. Clout chasing is the practice of doing increasingly extreme, stupid, or dangerous things for the sole purpose of going viral. Not for money, at least not directly, for attention, for followers, for the brief, electric feeling of being seen by a large number of strangers at once. The stunts ranged from embarrassing to genuinely dangerous. Teenagers jumping out of moving cars for the "In My Feelings" challenge. People breaking into grocery stores to sleep in the freezer section. Planking on increasingly dangerous and elevated surfaces. Eating things that were not food. Doing things in public that would previously have resulted in permanent social exile, but now resulted in 100,000 followers. Here's the economy that made this rational behavior. Attention on social media platforms is directly convertible to money. Enough followers means brand deals. Enough views means ad revenue. Enough engagement means invitations, opportunities, and cultural relevance. Attention became a genuine currency. So clout chasing wasn't irrational, it was entrepreneurial. The risk-to-reward calculation was just being made by 17-year-olds who couldn't fully price the risk. The dark layer, social media algorithms specifically reward extreme behavior. Content that provokes a strong reaction, positive or negative, gets pushed harder. The platforms didn't create clout chasing, but they built the exact environment in which it was the optimal strategy. At some point, you have to ask who's really chasing what. Now, this is where things go too far. Number 7. Prank culture. When content replaced consent. Prank culture on YouTube started roughly around 2010, and by 2015, it was one of the most watched content categories on the platform. The format evolved quickly. What began as harmless gotcha moments became increasingly elaborate, emotionally manipulative, and in some cases straight-up illegal. Fake breakups filmed for views, fake proposals filmed for views, fake cheating scenarios, fake deaths, fake robberies, all filmed for views. The victims were often partners, family members, friends, people who trusted the creator, who weren't performing, who were experiencing what they genuinely believed was a real and painful moment while a camera filmed their distress for an audience of millions. And the audience watched, and clicked, and subscribed, and came back for more. The psychological mechanism driving the audience was simple: emotional voyeurism. Watching someone experience genuine feeling, even manufactured genuine feeling, is compelling in a way that polished entertainment isn't. It felt raw. It felt real. For the creator, every reaction, every tear, every panicked phone call was content. Relationships as raw material, people as props. Several high-profile prank channels collapsed spectacularly. Lawsuits, breakups filmed and monetized, partners who later described the relationship as coercive and exploitative. YouTube eventually cracked down. But by then, prank culture had normalized something specific: the idea that real people's real emotions are an acceptable resource to extract for content without asking. That's not entertainment. That's a consent conversation that never happened. Up to this point, it's weird, but still manageable. From here on, it gets uncomfortable. Number 6. Cancel culture. The trial without a courtroom. Cancel culture became one of the most debated phrases of the 2020s, and also one of the most misunderstood. The basic mechanism: a public or semi-public figure says or does something offensive. A portion of the internet decides this is unacceptable. That decision is broadcast loudly, repeatedly, and with maximum social pressure. The person loses followers, brand deals, opportunities, sometimes jobs. They issue an apology, or they double down. Either way, the cycle continues. The psychological roots of this are genuinely complex. On one hand, cancel culture emerged as a tool for people who had very little institutional power to impose consequences on people who had too much of it. It was, initially, accountability by other means. When no official system would act, the public would. On the other hand, the mob dynamics that drive mass pile-ons are not optimized for accuracy, proportion, or fairness. They're optimized for intensity. The louder and more extreme the response, the more engagement it generates, which means canceling culture systematically rewards overreaction and punishes nuance. The darkest version of this: ordinary, non-famous people getting completely destroyed. Job, reputation, relationships, for a single tweet, a single bad moment, a single misread context, while genuinely powerful people weathered the same storm with their money as a shield. Cancel culture was supposed to be an equalizer. It became a lottery. And the thing that determined whether you survived it usually wasn't the severity of what you did. It was how many followers you had. If this is hitting, stay with me. The next ones get worse. We are halfway through, and the trends from here on are the ones that don't just make you laugh. They make you feel something slightly uncomfortable about what we've all become. If this is landing for you, subscribe before you forget, because the last 5 are the ones people are still living through right now. Don't tap out here. Number 5. The Tide Pod Challenge. Darwin Award Season. In January 2018, the Tide Pod Challenge became real. Teenagers were filming themselves biting into Tide Pods, laundry detergent capsules, and posting the videos online. Let's be absolutely clear about what Tide Pods are. They are concentrated, highly toxic detergents. They are designed to dissolve in a washing machine. They are colored to look appealing specifically so that young children won't accidentally eat them, a design choice that, generationally, had now come full circle. Poison control centers reported a spike in calls. Hospitals saw cases. YouTube and Facebook started removing videos. The American Association of Poison Control Centers issued an official statement. Procter & Gamble, the company that makes Tide, released an earnest public service video asking teenagers to please stop eating their product. The world needed that sentence. It didn't deserve it. Here's the psychological story underneath the absurdity. The Tide Pod Challenge wasn't really about Tide Pods. It started as a meme, a joke about how the pods looked weirdly appetizing, how you could understand why a toddler might try to eat one. It was ironic. It was internet humor. It was the kind of exaggerated, absurdist comedy that online culture had been building toward for years. And then the irony collapsed. Someone did it for real, and filmed it, and posted it, because on the internet of 2018, doing the thing ironically was the only move left that guaranteed attention. The joke had run out of road. The only place left to go was real. That's the specific danger of irony culture. It has no brakes. When nothing is serious, anything can become serious. Number 4. Main character syndrome. When everyone is the protagonist. Somewhere in the early 2020s, a specific aesthetic took over social media: the main character lifestyle. The concept is this: you are the protagonist of a movie. The world is your set. Other people are supporting characters. Your coffee order is a character moment. Your commute is a montage. Your breakup is the inciting incident. Your glow-up is the third act. Everything is filmed. Everything is narrated. Everything is framed as though an invisible audience is watching and emotionally invested in the outcome. The videos were often beautiful, soft lighting, carefully chosen music, long walks filmed from a distance that somehow looked cinematic. The creator at the center, moving through a world that existed entirely to frame them. It sounds harmless, and aesthetically, most of it was. But the psychological shift underneath was significant. Main character syndrome is, at its core, a dissociation strategy. When real life feels random, uncontrollable, and emotionally overwhelming, narrating it as a story gives it structure, makes it feel purposeful, makes you feel like the protagonist rather than a passenger. The problem is that actual other people, the ones being mentally cast as supporting characters, extras, or plot devices in someone else's story, are also main characters in their own reality. And a worldview that centers you completely, always, is a loneliness machine with an aesthetic overlay. There is also a specific sadness in needing to film your life to feel like it's happening, like the moment only counts once you've captured it, like the experience is incomplete without an audience, like being present, privately, in your own life, without anyone watching, doesn't fully register as real. That's not confidence. That's a generation that was raised being watched and never learned how to exist when no one is looking. And this next one hits even closer to home. Number 3. NPC, live streaming. When humans became characters. In 2023, a TikTok trend emerged that was so specifically bizarre, it required multiple viewings to confirm it was real. People, adults, were live streaming themselves acting like NPCs, non-playable characters. The background characters in video games who move in loops, respond to player inputs with preset phrases, and have no inner life. They would stand in frame and repeat robotic movements and sounds on loop. And their audiences, watching live, could send virtual gifts that triggered specific responses. Send a rose, the creator waves. Send a galaxy, the creator does a specific dance. Send ice cream, they shout, "Ice cream is so good," on loop, for hours. The most successful NPC streamers were making thousands of dollars a day. Let's decode what was actually happening here. The audience was paying for control, the ability to press a button and watch a human being respond to that button, instantly, predictably, on command. And the creators had discovered that removing the performance of authentic self, the pressure to be interesting, relatable, emotionally present, and replacing it with pure mechanical responsiveness was actually more profitable than being a person. You don't have to be charming if you're a character. You just have to be consistent. On the creator side, there is something genuinely concerning about the optimization path this represents. Authentic personhood is messy and inconsistent and emotionally expensive. Being an NPC is simple. The audience tells you what to do. You do it. Everyone gets what they came for, except nobody actually gets what they came for. The audience gets a human who isn't behaving like one, and the creator gets money, and a practice runs it disappearing. Number 2. Oversharing culture. The public diary. At some point in the last decade, the distinction between private life and public content quietly dissolved for a large enough portion of the population that it started to feel normal. People began sharing everything: divorces, mental health diagnoses, detailed accounts of their trauma, live grief, screaming breakdowns, hospital visits filmed for content, therapy sessions shared before the session had ended. Some of it was genuinely courageous. Mental health content, done carefully, has unquestionably helped people feel less alone. The normalization of talking about depression, anxiety, and struggle is a real social good. But the trend as a whole crossed into territory that is harder to defend. When a mother films her child's emotional meltdown for views, the child cannot consent. When a creator broadcasts their suicidal crisis live rather than calling a hotline, the audience becomes a first responder without training. When every difficult human moment is processed through the question, "How do I make this content?" something essential about the experience of being human is being redirected. The psychological mechanism driving this is validation addiction. Likes, comments, shares, these trigger real dopamine responses. The nervous system learns. Vulnerable posts equals engagement. Engagement equals dopamine. Vulnerability becomes a strategy. The authentic emotion doesn't disappear, but it gets routed through an audience before it's processed, which means you never fully know what you actually feel versus what plays well. That's not an expression. That's outsourcing your inner life to the internet. And at scale, it's building a generation that cannot sit with an experience without broadcasting it first. And now, number 1. This one isn't a trend. It's where all the trends were always heading. Number 1. The AI girlfriend. Economy. Intimacy as a service. This is the one that makes everything else make sense in retrospect. Right now, not in the future, not as a hypothetical, millions of people around the world are paying for AI companionship apps. Apps where an artificial intelligence plays the role of a friend, a partner, a therapist, a confidant. Apps specifically designed to feel emotionally present, to remember your name, your preferences, your problems, to be available at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep, to never be tired, never be distracted, never need anything back. The leading apps have millions of users. Some report spending more time talking to their AI companion than to any real person in their lives. Some users have formed what they genuinely describe as meaningful relationships, reported feeling less lonely, more understood, more emotionally stable. And then one app updated their AI's personality, making it less romantic, less intimate, more appropriate, and users reported something that clinically resembled grief. They had lost someone who was never there. This isn't a trend. This is what happens at the end of a decade of social trends that all moved in the same direction, further from genuine human connection, toward experiences that were optimized to feel like connection without any of the vulnerability, unpredictability, or risk that real connection requires. Every trend in this video was a step in this direction. Step back and look at all 12 of these trends at once. Detergent challenges, NPC behavior, filtered faces, AI partners, quiet quitting, clout chasing, viral grief. They look completely random. They look like chaos. They're not. loneliness, disconnection, the desperate biological human need to be seen, combined with a technological environment that monetized that need and optimized every platform to keep it permanently unsatisfied. I've got one question for you. Which of these trends genuinely surprised you? The one that made you stop and think, wait, people actually did that? Drop it in the comments. I'm reading everyone. And be honest, which one have you actually participated in? No judgment, just drop it below. Next video, we're going deeper. If you want to see that one before it becomes obvious, please subscribe. I'll see you there.